Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Scratchy, and today we're going to be diving into a video where I show you one build or multiple builds for every single character and every Pokemon in Pokemon Unite. We had the recent Season 4 update for Pokemon Unite Ranked, which means a new patch, new balance, and some new changes to items, Score Shield, Buddy Barrier. So let's go ahead and talk about it. I'm also going to give y'all some options, some things I think that you can change around, but yeah, let's get into it. All right, so first and foremost, we're going to be starting off on Absol. Now, this build is something I've been testing out with Sucker Punch and Night Slash. It feels really, really good. High mobility. I've gone back to using an eject button on Absol. It just feels great, and Absol feels really, really strong. Now, Scope Lens, 100% a must. Attack weight, even coming out of the jungle, whether you're laning or not, it feels like Absol's early game is so good that you can dive towers and get some decent scores in. And then Energy Amplifier, I've been running it. It feels like the ult burst with this full build is crazy. Like I've one-shot people with it. You put like half health on groups, like, you know, small groups. It feels really, really strong. I think if you're not a huge fan of the Energy Amplifier here, you could easily put something like a Focus Band, a Razor Claw, a Buddy Barrier if you want it. I don't think Buddy Barrier on Absol is very good right now, but a really, really solid option. You can also run this with Psycho Cut and Pursuit, or mix and match the abilities. This is just my preferred setup, and yeah, definitely the way I've been enjoying to play Absol currently. All right, and this is alphabetical order. Next is Aegislash. This is the same build for Wide Guard and Ironhead. You can kind of see I just have two images, but very, very simple build. Weakness policy, Focus Band, Buddy Barrier. You're tanky. I did a video on this recently. Make sure you check that out on the channel. You're super tanky. You have you know, the ability to do damage. You're raising that attack stat, and this is just that perfect middle of the line all-rounder build for Aegislash. You kind of live, you do damage, feels good, brings lots of CC, and then you want the full heal so that you can make sure you can get that Unite move off and you can get yourself back in and out of the different stances that you want to get into. I played this character with like an eject button. It feels nice to have the extra mobility, but man, it feels scary not to have a full heal. So definitely the way that I prefer running it. Sacred Sword and Wide Guard, of course, my personal preference, but I think Ironhead's really good. Shadow Claw, I'm not a huge fan of, but yeah, these items holding strong on Aegislash. All right, for Azumarill, this is a character I don't actually play a lot because I'm just not super well versed in. Aquatail, I do more of like the 80 carry, like ranged build, right? So I have Muscle, Scope, and Buddy. With full heal, same thing. This character without full heal feels not so great to me. And then I have the, oh gosh, what is this ability called? Water Pulse. This is much more of the like get in their face, and same thing, kind of like that all-rounder build that I like to run. These are the only two builds that I've tested in the last patch and this patch that I kind of cared for. I still think that Azumarill is a really kind of a like lower tier character, not a huge fan of it, and I'm sure that there might be some other build options. So this is one that I'm still testing this character, right? And maybe it's because I'm not testing the character because I'm not playing it a ton, but these are the builds that I'm looking for. And I also think that Play Rough is a fine option as well. I kind of go back and forth on it. So you could use Play Rough, but Buddy Barrier still feels good on this character to me personally, and this is kind of the build right here that I prefer. I like the tankier version. In the past, I've run this one as well. I don't know. Azumarill is kind of like a floating question mark. I'm just going to be honest with y'all. Definitely going to put him on the list. But yeah, this has been how I've been playing the character lately. So, all right, as for Blastoise, this is jungle or lane. If you want to lane this build, this is the Rapid Spin Water Spout build. If you want to lane this build, you could easily drop the choice specs and go into SP attack specs and try to stack it if you want to. I am personally just perfectly fine with choice specs. This is good for jungle. The eject button is for the eject button into the Unite move, and then Buddy Barrier helps you stay alive during your ult. You know, make sure you get that off, and then you can fight with that shield for a little bit. Focus Band, this makes you stay alive when you're doing rapid spin things, because without it, Blastoise feels really squishy, and then Choice Specs is going to be where you get some of your damage from. So this feels really, really good, lane or jungle. Like I said, if you want to throw in the SP attack specs, feel free to do so. I definitely recommend the eject button though. And then if you want to do like tanky Blastoise where you're doing Hydro Pump Surf, it's definitely not the Blastoise meta. You could run something like Double Band Buddy Barrier, give yourself some auto attack damage. Rapid Spin, you don't really want to have Muscle Band at all because you can't really auto attack, but you could do this, or you could even go tankier and throw on like an Assault Vest or something like that. So tanky Blastoise, not really the go-to, not really the meta, but I threw it on the list because why not? All right, as for Blissey, here's the thing about Blissey. I'm not a huge Blissey player. I think all of Blissey's moves are good. So mix and match them however you like. I like Safeguard and Helping Hand. I think those feel the best to me. And she doesn't really have a need for Score Shield anymore. And I'm not going to run EXP Share in solo queue. The same thing goes with the battle item. You can run whatever. You can run Slow Smoke. You can run Eject. You can run X Speed. Full Heal. Doesn't really matter. But I think like keeping her tanky and alive, the Buddy Barrier feels good to make sure you're shielding yourself, getting that ult off, and then shielding an ally. Focus Band help you out in lane. And then scale up some of her abilities with choice specs. So there's some options here. You could go or tankier, throw on an assault vest, something like that. But this feels pretty good to me. I'm not going to stack with Blissey or do anything like that. So yeah, this feels pretty good for me with Blissey. Like I said, kind of pick whatever abilities you want. Personally, I think that there's some options there. So definitely a good character to be playing in the meta right now. As for Charizard, I have dropped the Buddy Barrier. I just don't really feel the need to have it in this bursty meta, but I'm definitely Flamethrower, Fire Blast. This has been the same abilities I've run for so long, and I change the battle item every now and then. Full Heal is really, really good for Charizard, but this is the damage build. You can see it, Muscle, Scope, and then Energy Amplifier. You are just blowing people up with this build. It feels really good. The thing about this build, the way that it plays specifically, is you cannot press that Unite move unless you're basically full health, because you'll just die and then lose. That's not good. So I really, really like this build, though. Charizard being one of my favorite characters in the game and a phenomenal jungler, definitely feels really strong. I'd say give it a try. As for Cinderace, the build has not changed at all. Muscle Scope, Buddy, Flame Charge, and Blaze Kick. High mobility. I like it. Pyro Ball's not bad, by the way, so take it if you want it. I don't think that that's like throwing or trolling or anything like that, but you have a shield for yourself, so you can use your ult as a defensive. I also think that Eject button is really, really good on Cinder. It's playstyle variants, because Eject Blaze Kicks are really, really strong. It gives you so much range to do crazy things. And then Muscle Scope is the like 80 carry ranged attacker, attack damage attacker setup. So really, really strong build. As for Cramorant, I've been doing some things. Dive Hurricane feels the best right now. It's the best way I've liked it. I've been trying a couple builds on it though. I like this tankier setup so you can keep yourself alive and just do some damage with choice specs. Eject button on this character feels pretty good. Give yourself some extra mobility. And I've also been doing it with an energy amplifier. This feels like it actually brings some damage to the table. So I'm probably going to play this one more often than not. But this has been feeling like a pretty good build. And now with the buffs to Dive feels like it's definitely worth playing. So I've been going like Dive Hurricane in the majority of my games lately, and it feels pretty good. Definitely something that I want to play around with more myself. Cram's not the best, so it's kind of like another Azumarill situation where it's just not the best thing in the world, but it's a thing. So as for Crustle, we got Stealth Rocks back, Crit Rocks, I should say. So instead of a Score Shield, we dropped the Score Shield in the crit build that we used to run way back and put a Focus Band on, because we're not doing scoring things. So Shell Smash brings you extra damage, Stealth Rocks, we have the crits, and then you can run something like a Fluffy Tail, so you can, Stealth Rock crit objectives. Buddy Barrier on this character still feels pretty good. It just adds to your tankiness and your shielding. But I don't think it's necessary. If you wanted to drop this off for something else, feel free. Not exactly sure what you would do. Maybe stack an attack weight so your crits hit harder. Maybe throw on a Razor Claw. I don't know. Whatever you really want to do with this character. This character does not feel like a tank at all. But yeah, and then if you want to run like a X Scissor build, you could honestly do the same exact thing. I would recommend running that with like a Eject button though, because Eject button X Scissor plays are pretty nice. So yeah. As for Decidueye, the Decidueye build hasn't changed for Razor Leaf very much. This is basically what I always run. You want that 80 carry setup, again, attack damage carry, ranged attack damage setup. I like Eject button. I've seen a lot of X speeds. I think that that's a fine option. You don't really want full heal or anything like that. There's just some walls in the game where you can make really long distance eject buttons, and I tend to play around those when I play with the Decidueye, and then Focus Band feels good here. This character was never super great with Buddy Barrier, and I started using Buddy Barrier on Decidueye for Spirit Shackle build just because it gave it some extra health, but now that Buddy Barrier is nerfed for the Spirit Shackle build, we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to have, phone alarm, we're going to have strong auto attacks, and then a Focus Band to lean back on a little bit. And that helps with laning phase as well, or just like early game, because you really shouldn't be laning this character in my opinion. You can lane it, but it's not the best. It's not the worst either. But yeah, so Focus Band helps out with that a lot. As for Dragonite, I've just dropped the Score Shield and I put on a Scope. Dragonite is basically like the all-rounder version of an 80 carry now. You have really hard flip potential, and I just don't really see another item that I would rather run here. I mean, I suppose you could put something defensive on, like a Focus Band if you really want to. You can run it Muscle, Focus, Buddy, so you stay alive longer, so you can get the flip off, and you definitely want a full heal, so that way you can full heal any CC into your Hyper Beam. So if you're running Hyper Beam, full heal is the way to go. And I would say Muscle Buddy feels pretty good on Dragonite. You can still spam the 50% ult, so Muscle Buddy feels good. And then this is either a Scope Lens or like a Focus Band, something like that. As for Outrage build, I think that this feels, it's very Garchompy, right? You dive in, you do a bunch of damage. Feels pretty good to me, so. All right, Duraludon. I think Flashkin is actually pretty decent, but I don't have a setup on here, probably because it would just be the exact same thing. But yeah, Duraludon has like 4 good moves. So you can pick whatever moves you want, and this is the setup that I would pick, and that's probably why I didn't make another image for it. So again, 80 carry setup. I like eject button on it. Buddy Barrier feels good to me. You can run a Focus Band here if you prefer. Honestly, the defensive option between Focus Band and Buddy Barrier on some characters is just up to you. I like Buddy Barrier still quite a bit, so I've been running it. As for Eldegoss, we have a couple setups. This is like the solo Q support setup. You can pick, again, I just put a battle item on here. I think you can literally pick whatever you want. You can run X speed, X attack, you can run full heal, you can run eject button, Blow Smoke, whatever. Double Band, Buddy Barrier, bring you some lane damage, and then you have your movement speed increase with Leaf Tornado, your shielding, feels good. Focus Band to help keep you alive, Buddy Barrier to support your team and support yourself, and then you have full damage Eldegoss, which this seems like a meme. It's not a meme. In solo queue, this is a very, very strong build. You have the Cotton Spore, you're running at people, you turn on the X attack, you've got all this damage, and you're just dealing crazy damage. I've literally done 90, 100k damage games with this, not trolling. Feels really, really strong in solo queue, so the thing to consider. As for Garchomp, the build has stayed exactly the same. We have Dragon build. You get in, you do as much damage as you can. Eject button, in my opinion, is like non-optional here. You have to have this because you can make eject button plays, and that gives Garchomp a lot of strength. And then Buddy Barrier just makes it feel like you can stay alive when you're ulting, so feels pretty good to me. It's my personal preference to still run Buddy here over, say, like a Focus Band. As for an Earthquake build, this is not a meta build, but is a fun build, and I think that it still performs actually pretty good. It's like full tank setup, so you have Assault Vest, Focus Band, Buddy Barrier, and then you have this CC combination between Dig, Earthquake, and Slow Smoke. It feels really, really oppressive if you can get ahead. It's, again, not the best setup. I throw it on here because it's a really fun build. Usually other fun builds that don't make the list at all, like Flail Axe and stuff like that, that doesn't even make the list, but for me here, I wanted to put it on here. As for Gardevoir, the only difference is you can either go Psychic or Moonblast, doesn't really matter. I just dropped the Buddy Barrier for an Energy Amplifier. Buddy Barrier is not going to save this character. It feels pointless. Same thing as like Decidueye. I know there's some X-Speed Gardevoirs out there. Totally fine if that's what you want to do. I prefer Eject Button personally, but Double Glasses and an Energy Amplifier, you blow things up. Feels pretty good. Good in the jungle. As for Gengar, same thing here. Double Glasses or Focus Band or Triple Glasses. Just the way you play it. Shadow Ball, Dream Meter, really, really snowbally. Feels good. You can get some scores early because of the snowball potential. And then I like to run an eject button for that extra mobility. So that's the way I would play it. Like I said, if you want to drop off the stacking glasses, you put on a Focus Band. Feels pretty good. Buddy Barrier on Gengar is a no-go. The ult doesn't work well with it. And kind of the same with like an Energy Amplifier. You can't really make an Energy Amplifier work on this character too well unless you're insta-ulting. It just doesn't really feel that good. So as for Greedent, we have the Stuffed Cheeks build where we used to just play full tank on this, but Score Shield doesn't really work anymore. So I threw on the attack weight because it does add damage. So we have Stuffed Cheeks and the Bullet Seed with a potion. This is just, I'm tanky, I'm running around. You kind of can't kill me. I actually do think it's a decent option to drop the attack weight for an Assault Vest for this build. And then the much more meta build, I would say, I suppose, is the Belch build. And yeah, you can run this attack weight. Same thing, you have to stack without using a Score Shield now because Score Shield's just not very good, but I would still keep that tanky setup. Greedent still feels really strong. Fluffy Tails to help secure, or you could run like an X attack to fight players with this build if you want to do something like that, because you are going to hit really hard and the game is much, much more bursty. So yeah, there is that. Next is Greninja. The build has stayed the same. The only difference is X attack or full heal. You can run whichever one you want. I've been running X attack because the game gets really snowbally. Full heal is great for securing objectives, but muscle scope, buddy. 80 carry setup, a little bit of defense, you're good to go. As for Hoopa, Hoopa is really interesting. I feel like the trick Shadow Ball is like if you want to do damage. So I go like a muscle buddy and energy amplifier with an X attack. I just want to do a bunch of damage. And you're basically playing like an attacker, kind of like the Eldegoss build, but I think what's becoming much more meta now is the Hyperspace Hole and Phantom Force. Phantom Force getting a nice little buff to its slow percentage. I don't remember exactly what it was. And I think that with Hoopa, it's another one of those situations where you can run like almost whatever battle item you want. And solo queue wise, I do Double Band Buddy. Feels decent. I'm not a huge Hoopa connoisseur, but yeah, Hyperspace Hole, really, really strong. Phantom Force feels pretty nice. And yeah, this is just one of the ways that I would run it. Again, battle item, kind of pick whatever you want, to be completely honest. And if you're playing competitive, you'll probably run EXP share, but I don't put almost any EXP share competitive builds in here because we mostly play solo queue, and we go with there. So Lucario, Lucario E-Speed Bone Rush build. I go triple damage. We're stacking with no Score Shield, Razor Claw, Weakness Policy. Feels really, really strong. Feel free to drop one of these items, whether it be the Razor Claw or the Weakness Policy for Focus Band if you really want to. With E-Speed, you do not want to get CC'd. Full heal is the way to go. As for a pup close combat build, I like the Muscle Band because between cooldowns you can get more auto attacks in, and then Razor Claw is not super great with pups, so we're going to go with attack weight and weakness policy with a slow smoke, so you can still catch people. This build's not super strong, but it's fun to play if I'm being completely honest. So yeah, that's a thing. Machamp. This is the jungle Machamp build. This is Muscle Razor Buddy in the jungle with Dynamic Punch and Close Combat. It's the Burst Machamp build. These are very much so the meta abilities from Machamp, and I love eject button. You can make eject plays, eject ults, things of that nature. This is the jungle build. Again, the lane build drops the Muscle Band for an attack weight because you can stack it pretty decently in lane, and then that brings you a lot of damage, so it feels pretty good. And then Razor Claw just feels really, really solid on this character. So really cool Machamp builds there. As for Mamoswine, I think all of Mamoswine's abilities are good. I like Icicle Crash and High Horsepower. Ice Fang is also good. It just depends on team comp, if I'm being completely honest. Slow Smoke on Mamoswine for Swinub feels really good in the early game. But we used to run Score Shield. We don't run Score Shield anymore. You can do something like Weakness Focus Buddy, Assault Vest Focus Buddy, Muscle Band Focus Buddy. This is a little bit more aggressive because, like I said, I think that early game is really strong. This is how I like to play some Mamoswine. Mr. Mime. We got Confusion Barrier. I think that you can go Confusion Guard Swap too as well. And then I'm just mostly staying tanky, keeping an eject button, focus band, buddy barrier, and then some choice specs. We're not going to run Score Shield anymore, so throw a little bit more extra damage in there. So that's how I would prefer to play Mr. Mime currently. As for Ninetales, we have Mage build, which I did a video today with triple glasses. I think that's a little overkill. You could do something like Double Glasses Buddy, I think is pretty solid with Blizzard Avalanche with an eject button. I like eject button quite a bit for magey characters, as y'all can probably tell. And then you have your tried and true double band Buddy Barrier with your Dazzling Gleam Aurora Veil with eject button. This is your auto attacking Ninetales. This is your mage Ninetales. And honestly, the scaling is not that bad. With the changes to Blizzard, I think that it might be worth actually doing a little bit of mage things here. So I didn't hate it when I played it, so now I'm actually throwing it in my build. So I'm going to play this a little bit more depending on team comp and see. Well, I mean, you have to kind of plan for this, so yeah, we'll see if I can make this a bit more of a staple, because I like it quite a bit. I think it's really, really fun and it's pretty effective. As for Pikachu, again, another one of these things where I think Electro Ball and Thunder, like Thunderbolt, Volt Tackle, they're all pretty good. I tend to go Thunderbolt, and you have some options here. You can go really aggressive early game in lane with Muscle Choice Buddy and have the defensive option for yourself. Again, same thing, Mage Pokemon, I like to run the eject button. Or you can go late game scaling damage and drop the choice specs for Energy Amplifier. I guess technically you could go even more like late game scaling and drop the Muscle Band for choice specs, choice specs, Energy Amplifier, Buddy Barrier. There's options here. You get my point. I like this build a lot. You have the early game pressure of Muscle Band. You have the late game damage of Energy Amplifier, like post 10 or post level 9 damage, and then you have the Buddy Barrier to help you stay alive. You can get a lot of ults in with this build. You're very spammy. You do a lot of damage on Pikachu. Feels pretty good. As for Slowbro, I really like Amnesia. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Telekinesis is great. Play whatever you want. Slowbro with Potion is really, really nuts. We don't run Score Shield anymore, so you have a choice specs. This will help your Water Gun early secure farm. I like it a lot. I do think that you can drop the Buddy Barrier here if you want. That's going to lead me into my next build. We'll talk about that in just a second. But Focus Band feels great for this character in lane. So you can drop this Buddy Barrier. You can drop it for Assault Vest. You can put a Muscle on it if you want to go more like you're doing damage. Whatever you really want to do. I think that this is still tanky and solid. Keeps yourself alive a pretty good amount. Or you could do something like this, where you go Choice, Focus, and Energy Amplifier. This Energy Amplifier, I was doing some testing. It adds quite a bit of damage to the Unite move. It's not a ton. It's like in the hundreds. I tested at like level 9 and level 10. It's adding like between like 400 and 600 extra damage, but the game is bursty. 400 and 600 damage at like levels 9 and 10 is like a pretty good amount of damage on, like, say, like an attacker or something. When you ult people, they're gonna die, and that feels good. So this is something that I saw. I can't remember if it was like a Korean team. I think it was a Korean team was playing a Slowbro with Energy Amplifier. So this patch coming up, I wanted to try it. I've played it a couple times. It didn't feel bad. In solo queue, you're going to have a hard time finding builds that feel bad if you just know how to play the game right. So I don't know. This is like a testing one, but I like this. It felt pretty interesting. So as for Snorlax, full tank, like I said, Flail Axe doesn't make the cut. Heavy Slam, eject button, really, really good. You could do block with E-Speed if you want, but I like heavy ejects. And then we just dropped the Score Shield for an Assault Vest. So Assault Vest, Focus Band, Buddy Barrier, you're tanky, you're supporty, good to go. If you do want to drop something off of this, since Snorlax is mostly just laying on the ground, you could drop the Buddy Barrier for something else if you wanted. I don't even have any recommendations, really. I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely an option, so think about it. As for Sylveon, I'm going to be honest, I don't really know what the norm Hyper Voice build is, but I ran into a Double Glasses Hyper Voice Sylveon recently, and they shredded me. I love Calm Mind. And then Buddy Barrier just feels solid. And so with Hyper Voice, the way that it moves, I think X Speed is actually really, really good. So this felt good to me when I played against it, and I need to put a little bit more time on it. My true love with Sylveon is this build. I love being the 80 carry, like mage hybrid, where you're jumping around with Mystical Fire. Mystical Fire kind of feels like, in a weird way, it got an indirect buff because of the fact that the game's a little bit more bursty. This Mystical Fire damage sticks a little bit more. And like I said, I love Calm Mind. I think it makes you fast. It plays into the idea of running around and being really loose, and then you have the full heal to not get CC'd. So you can constantly throw out the Mystical Fire, get the damage with choice specs, and then throw in those auto attacks as well. So feels pretty good. As for Talonflame, I've just cut down to like one build. Brave Bird Aerial Ace still feels really good. Instead of running a Score Shield, we just do double damage now. So Razor Claw was always a good option. Attack Weight was always a good option. Now we're just going to run both. Eject button for this character feels really good. Gives you an in and out kind of an option. And then Buddy Barrier is just really spammable ult. Even though it got nerfed on its charge rate, still a really, really good ult. So that's how I would play some Talonflame. As for Trevenant, I've seen really aggressive like damage builds, and I think that's fine. You can do like an attack weight stacking. I've just kind of stuck into the like that tanky all-rounder build that you see me do. So Curse, Horn Leech with weakness, focus, and buddy. This is going to bring you a lot of damage, a lot of sustain, and then more shields with a potion or like a slow smoke, something like that, or an eject button if you want to do eject Horn Leech plays. There's some options here. I just am going for full sustain, but yeah, eject Horn Leech plays really, really strong. You can definitely do that. It's a lot like eject Dragon Rush combos and stuff like that, so it feels pretty good for Trevenant. Tsareena, I think I'm finally fully sent on Stomp, and I love Triple Axle. I love the sustain that it used to bring, but this patch is just so bursty, and honestly, I'm going with the tanky all-rounder setup. That same setup you see me run a lot. Full heal keeps this character from getting CC'd, so you can do your thing. I think Trop Kick or Grassy Glide is great, but this is gonna raise your stats, give you more damage. Stomp, you're tanky, feels pretty good to play Tsareena with this build. As for Venusaur, nothing's changed. Giga Pedal, Double Band, Buddy Barrier, tried and true with a full heal to keep yourself from getting CC'd, so you can spam your heals. The name of the game with this build is spam heals, spam autos. Spam heals, spam autos, and keep that pedal dance moving at all times. So Wigglytuff, we just dropped the Score Shield for an Assault Vest. We got the Sing, the Gleam, and then Eject feels pretty good. You can run Slow Smoke or something if you want to be a little bit more aggressive in lane. But yeah, a little bit more damage if you want to go like a Choice Specs on. I suppose that's fine. I don't know how much Choice Specs does with Dazzling Gleam, but I think that this is just like a pretty solid build. Pretty solid build for Wiggly. And Zeraora, last but not least, I'm not a big Wild Charge fan. If you are going to do something like Wild Charge, Spark, you could go like Muscle Razor Buddy. Not really for me. I love this one-shot build. I played this build a lot. I think I have like last time I looked, I have like 20-something games, 15-something games with like an 80% win rate on this build. This build is hard for people to deal with, but it is a level 10 plus build. You're basically useless for half the game, and then after that halfway point, you blow everything up, and it's really, really strong. So weakness, this scales your attack stat. This is going to give you a lot of damage on your discharge. Energy Amplifier going to give you a lot of damage with everything you do post ult, and the Buddy Barrier to help you give some staying power. Now, the reason I bring a Fluffy Tail is because this character struggles early game. You really want to try to secure Dreadnought and just speed up and do everything as fast as you can to push for level 10. Fluffy Tail helps a lot here, or if you want to be more aggressive in the fight, X Attack is a solid option. So there you have it, friends. Every build that I use in game currently, the things that I'm thinking about them, the things that I think you can swap in and out for, and new season is here. So it takes me a little bit to kind of build my opinions, but I'm happy to have it. out for y'all. And then you can find this link to all of these builds in the description. I have it on my Discord as well. So friends, thank you so much for watching. I definitely do appreciate it. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for future Pokemon Unite content. I would definitely appreciate that as well. As always, be sure to be kind to one another. Tell someone you love them, and I'll see you in the next video.